Hello. All right. Starting the stream. And it's going to be a short one. Just reading a couple pages or one. Let's go. Accompaniment is chapter 4 um, the book How to Know a Person by David Brooks. Lauren Ensley. Uh, Lauren Esley, an American naturalist, was doing some field work on the Platte River, which runs through Mary Pfeiffer's Nebraska and then flows into Missouri and eventually down into the Gulf of Mexico. He was trekking through thick bushes when suddenly he broke through a willow thickest, thickest, a willow thickest, and found himself standing ankle deep in the river, his feet drenched. He was hot and thirsty after miles of walking, and there was no one around. So he took off his clothes and sat down in the water. At that moment, he experienced what he called an extension of the senses, an awareness that this river he was immersed in was a part of the whole North American watershed. Staring with sorry, Starting with the cold little streams in the snow-covered glacier and flowing south into the mighty rivers and then into the ocean. And he took was part of this vast flow, and that he took was part of this vast flow. A thought came to him: I was going to float. If you know anything about the Platte River, you know that saying that the Platte River is a mile wide and an inch deep is a shallow river about knee deep where Esley was. But to him, this was a trivial depth this was a trivial depth for he did not know how to swim. A childhood near-death experience had given him a permanent fear of water, and and the plateau, and the plats, and the plateau, while shallow, does have its swirls, holes, and patches of quicksand. So the thought of floating in it came wrapped in fear, nervousness, and exhilaration. Still, he lay on his back on the water and began to drift, savoring the sensation of it, asking, what does it feel like to be a river? He was washing away the boundaries between himself and the river. He was now part of the river he was now part of. The sky wailed over him. For an instant, as I bobbed into the main channel, I had the sensation of sliding down the vast tilted face of the continent. It was then that I felt cold needles of uh, al- the alpine. It was then that I felt the cold needles of the alpine springs at my fingertip and the warmth of the Gulf pulling me southwards. He wrote later, I was streaming over ancient seabeds, trust aloft, seabeds trust aloft, where had once giant reptiles has once spotted. I was wearing down the face of time and tumbling cloud weather and sorry and trotling cloud weathered ranges into oblivion and trotling cloud weathered ranges into oblivion. I touched my margins with the delicacy of a crayfish antennae and felt great fishes gliding felt great fishes glide about their walk. Esley's essay about this experience is called The Flow of the River. In it, he is not only describing the plateau, he's describing how he felt. He was merging with the river. He recounts a sort of open awareness of the connection between all creatures, all nature. He wasn't swimming in the river. He wasn't investigating the river. He was accompanying the river. After the illuminating gaze, accompaniment is the next step in getting to know a person. 90% of life is just going about your business. It's a meeting at work, a trip to the supermarket, or small talk with another parent while dropping the kids off at school. And usually there are other people around. And usually there are other people around. In these normal moments of life, you are not staring deeply into another's eyes or unveiling profound intimacies. You are just doing stuff together, not face to face, but side by side. You are accompanying each other. When you are first getting to know someone, you don't want to try to peer into their soul right away. It's best to look at something together. What do you think of the weather, Taylor Swift, gardening, or series The Crown, or the TV series The Crown? You are not studying a person, just getting used to them. Do through small talk and doing mundane stuff together. Your unconscious mind is moving with mine, and we are getting a sense of each other's energy, temperaments, and manners. We are attuning with each other's rhythm and moods, acquiring a kind of subtle tactic knowledge about each other that is required before other kinds of knowledge can be broached. We are becoming comfortable with each other, and comfort is no small thing. Nothing can be heard in the mind until the situation feels safe and familiar to the body. Small talk and just casually being around someone is a vastly unpredictable stage in the process of getting to know someone. Sometimes you can learn more about a person by watching how they talk to a waiter than by asking some profound question about their philosophy of life. Even when you know someone well, I find that if you don't talk about the little things on a regular basis, it's hard to talk about the big things. This chapter is about how to get to know people a bit better during the daily routine of everyday life. There are ways of showing up. There are ways of showing up that deepens connection and trust, and ways that do not. If you go through life with an optimization mindset, you are just going to drop off your kids at the nursery school in the shortest time possible, and you and the other parents will be ships passing in the night. But I believe that Esley floats down the river gives us a different model for how to be present with other people. Obviously, floating down a river is not the same as being in a meeting with someone or having coffee with an acquaintance. But there is something about Esley's attitude that is intrusive, that is instructive and inspringing. Accompaniment in this meaning is an over-centered way of moving through life. When you are accompanying someone, you are in a state of relaxed awareness, attentive and sensitive and unhurried. You are not leading or You are not leading or directing the other person. You are just riding alongside as they experience the ebbs and flows of daily life. You are there to be of help, a faithful presence, open to whatever may come. Your movements are marked not by willfulness, but by willingness. You are willing to let the relationship deepen or not deepen without focusing no, without forcing it either way. You are acting in a way that lets other people be perfectly themselves. The first quality I associate with accompaniment is patience. Trust is built slowly. The person who is good at accompaniment exercises what the philosopher Simeon Wiles called negative effort. This is the ability to hold back and be aware of the other person's timeable, the other person's timetable. Wow, I have declined. We do not obtain the most precious gift by going in search of them, but by waiting for them. Well, Will wrote, the person who is good at accompaniment is declarating the person who is good at accompaniment is declarating the pace of social life. I know a couple who treasures friends who are what they call l- sorry, lingerable. They are the sort of people you want to linger with at the table after a meal or in chairs outside by the pool. To let things flow, to let the relationship emerge. It's a great talent to be someone other consider lingerable. Getting to know someone else is always going to be a vulnerable proposition. Personal truth resents personal truth resents approaches resents resent resents approaches that are too aggressive. Personal truths resent approaches that are too aggressive, too intense, too impatient. People rightly guard their own psychological space and erect gates that can be passed through only in their own good time. Before a person is going to be willing to share personal stuff, they have to know that you respect their personal stuff. They have to know that you see their reserves as a form of dignity.